Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a spin through the biggest stories in MMA. On this week's episode, Father Time takes an L this past Saturday as Kamaru Usman wins in dominant fashion. Thug Rose also shows she still got it, turning back her friend and training partner Miranda Maverick. PFL semifinals are underway. Two finals are set for later this year at welterweight and featherweight. We'll discuss that. Hello, everyone. Gorgeous George here on the con, and look at the distinguished panel we have for you today. Goes is in Las Vegas, co-host on the MMA Junkie radio show. Mike Bond is in Toronto, one of the best reporters in the business. Nolan King is out in Boston, also one of the top reporters in the game. We got a great crew for you today. Cold coffee's on the ones and twos. Before we get started, though, if you can hit that like button now, it'll trigger the algorithm, and we'll get things really blowing up here on this week's episode. Let's go to that Atlanta card. Down in Atlanta, the ATL, former UFC welterweight champion Kamaru Usman turned back the clock and delivered a dominant performance over rising star Joaquin Buckley. Usman said that he wants that gold back around his waist. Did he do enough, fellas? Mike Bond, what say you? I want a reaction to the fight. And did the Nigerian Nightmare cut the line at 170?
I don't know if he cut the line. That's an interesting situation at welterweight right now. I guess it depends when we get the title fight, but I thought he looked incredible in this fight. Silenced a lot of people who didn't think he had performances like that in him still, me included. I got this pick all wrong in going with Buckley. And Usman, man, like you knew in that first couple minutes when he got Buckley down and Buckley was not able to like even really push the legs off, get any separation, get up very well. He had a few moments, but like his acceptance of bottom position in a lot of rounds was, I wouldn't say it's surprising, but just showed how difficult it is to get up under Kamaru Usman. He is still that force. He is a beast. He can do that to anyone, in my opinion, on the right night. He's still very capable. And I think in other scenarios, he probably would have a clean line to a title shot here. But given just everything going on at welterweight, the number of other contenders who deserve shots, and just the timing. If we don't get a title fight between Islam and Jack Della Maddalena till say like October, end of October, then Usman's looking at what, mid 2026 or so. If Islam wins, there's Ramadan, there's all these things. So just sitting here right now, imagining he's not going to fight again for the title, given how deep welterweight is, I don't know. I just don't see it. I think he's going to have to do one more.
Mike, you're as plugged in as he gets in this sport. Let me ask you something. We kept hearing about his knees. Man, them knees look good. He was exploding on those takedowns, holding the guy down. I didn't see him kind of like on wobbly or shaky legs or anything like that. You've had a couple chats with Ali Abdelaziz. Yeah. I know some stuff maybe does get kept private, but what do you think, man? Was it just rest that this guy needed, or maybe to strengthen the legs back up?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what he did, like if he underwent any sort of serious operations. I know Ali told Submission Radio, it wasn't one of our interviews, that he was getting like 7 to 8 injections in his knees per like however long period. So maybe it worked. I don't know. That's one thing to say. So like all the time off, he did look good. I mean, I don't think this was a massively dissimilar version than the championship version of Kamaru Usman. And I didn't look at those fights that he lost and think he lost them because of his mobility or because of his knees, right? He just, obviously we know what happened to the 2 Leon Edwards fights, and then Hamza at very short notice, up a weight class. He was competitive, all that stuff. So like, I don't think he ever really lost it, but it's more being like a behind the scenes thing we've always talked about. But on this, I didn't see a guy who looked like he was old or washed or couldn't do the things he wasn't able to do at the top of this game.
Yeah. All right. Nolan, how about you, man? What was your reaction? Could you believe what was unfolding before your eyes? I mean, I think all of us were jet set on Buckley, and can he cut the line?
Yeah, it was impressive, man. I think the momentum, right? Buckley had it all behind him. Usman, not so much. And so for it the script to be totally flipped on its head was impressive. You know, shout out to Kamaru. I think when he spoke to the media afterwards, you could see how much that win meant for him. And it did. I mean, think about what kind of impact that would have had on his career if he went out there and lost. But he went out there and won, and he didn't just win. He looked really impressive against a guy that's surging. So as Mike said, it's crowded at 170 right now. We're still kind of in this mode of a little bit of a logjam, right? With Jack and Islam coming up. We don't know when that's going to be. You got Shavkat, who was supposed to have a title fight, who's coming off injury. Then you got Sean Brady. So it's starting to be, for a while there, it was a little kind of uncertain, the the exact next steps of the division, what would happen. And Islam coming in has kind of made it more complicated, or there's put more of a delay on things. So I think Kamaru is definitely going to have to fight one more, but I think we can start talking again about him as somebody that could perceivably in the next year and a half get a title fight if he goes out there particularly and does that to somebody else. I mean, that was really impressive. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us, including Mike, including me, got that one wrong. We might have written off Kamaru a little bit too much, and he just shut everybody up. So shout out to him. That's a tough thing to do in MMA to get people to start saying nice things about you, right?
Hey, include me in that pack as well, my friend. I did not think he was going to win that fight. I was laughing at him even thinking about DDP, much less getting, whatever. I was wrong. I take that on the chin. Listen, Lacra Bra in the chat says 5 rounds, boring fight. I didn't see it that way, pal, because every time Buckley had to get up and Kamaru had to stand with him, and Buckley did seem to be a little better there. Although Joseph Bosa in the chat room points out 66-53, he was outstruck, meaning Joaquin Buckley. But in round 5, he was able to stave off some takedowns, and he was able to land some punches. So I was thinking, man, could this be Leon Edwards part 2, meaning the first fight? Fart noises, Goes might do one, who knows. Smash the like button though, just like Lazy Bed says. That would really, really help us out, and maybe that'll trigger Goes to make a fart noise later. But Goes, we got to give you your flowers. You were the only one out of 11 to take Usman.
Yeah, well, what are you gonna do? Listen, I'm one of those guys that's been talking about Buckley, and it's funny Danny Segura's not here because he's been my partner in crime. We thought the world of this kid. So yeah, a lot of people have to eat crow today, but I don't think anybody would have imagined Kamaru Usman looking as good as he did. And as far as whether it's a good fight or not, I'm still on the fence. Like, I want to rewatch it because seeing how Kamaru Usman is always attached to that last second KO, for some reason, when I'm watching a fight that involves him, regardless of him dominating, when you get into that 5th round, there's just this part of you that sits to the front of your chair and thinks, could this happen again? And I think that's what kind of makes you feel like you're watching a good fight, when in reality, he was very, very dominant. There were times where, yeah, when Buckley got up, he was, credit to him, he did not stop coming forward. He kept trying, but there's obviously a deficiency in his game, and it took many fights to get there. But when it happened, it happened in front of a lot of people in a packed division, and that's got a sting for Buckley. But I kind of like all the things that he said the next day. He's gonna address all that. I don't take it as a guy that's been really, I mean, maybe exposed to a certain extent, but I don't think to that extent where we go, he wasn't even really that good. He just needs to work on something. And Kamaru Usman, boy, has he heard a lot of things from a lot of people. And I get the victory dance, but the victory dance is going a little too far, as my compadres here have already broken down. Like, there's a lot of people in line here. That's going to be a difficult sell. But what he did convince me on is that he still has it. He still has it to possibly win a title. It's just that road and how he gets there.
Oatmeal26 in the chat says Buckley's not going anywhere. He's the most dangerous striker in the UFC. Dario Balde in the chat says, I'm still annoyed how everyone made Usman an underdog. No one's more annoyed than that guy. Mike, I know you laid out a great timeline, including Ramadan next year and the fact that they might have Islam Makhachev fight in October in Abu Dhabi. But what I'm curious about still is he kind of more of a front? Is he in front of Ian Gary, who stayed busy being a company man? And is he in front of Sean Brady, who just took out a guy who took out a Kamaru Usman twice? Do you feel like at least he's wedged himself there? And let's not forget Shavkat Rakhmonov. Who knows when he comes back? But did that win at least mean that he got some spots up in the line?
He's head to head with them all at minimum, right? And I think that comes via his name and his legacy more so than the resume. Like, there's guys who've beaten better current ranked welterweights who are on the upswing, stuff like that. This was obviously a huge win in that regard, but who have more work done in the last year to 2 years or whatever. So on that side, no. But again, we know how the UFC works. If you're looking at a title fight here, as Kamaru laid out, like Islam Makhachev versus Kamaru Usman for pound, like that's something you can put on a poster, the former versus the current. Is Islam Makhachev versus Shavkat Rakhmonov a better and more compelling fight on paper? Probably. But the names, all that stuff, it just, given what the UFC is known to do, it doesn't feel like they would pull the trigger on that fight if they had both options here. So he's in a great spot. And if you want to undo everything I just said at the beginning of that answer, go beat number 1 ranked Bilal Muhammad. And then there's no questions. No one can say they have the better win than you, the better resume. That's what he needs to do. And all of this shuts up and it's undeniable. So I would love to put it on the same card, put it on New York if Abu Dhabi's, a couple of weeks before. There's ways to make the timelines match up here, especially with Usman coming out of this fight with not taking an insane amount of damage in the cage. But certainly, I'm sure training camp was tough on him.
Yeah, he looks so good. We're almost forgetting about the 3-fight losing streak coming in. But Kamaru, we take our hats off. Now, Nolan, this is where all of a sudden we might have to stick our feet in our mouth again. Straight up, will Kamaru Usman be a champion again?
No, but he'll fight for a title again. I'm gonna say that because I think he also, being the name, right, the arguable one of the 2 best welterweights ever, right? I think he has a little bit of that, that sort of recognition, that privilege that gives a big name an opportunity, right? If he's in a tie and it's even with somebody with a Buckley of the world, obviously not Buckley, but somebody of that level, I think they're going to go with a guy like Kamaru. So I think what we saw last night, the only thing that's working against him now is time, right? Like we're looking at least a year from now that would take place. But I think he will fight for a title again.
Do you think he could be a world champion again?
I think he can fight for it, but I don't think so, man. Like Nolan said, it really does come down to time. And I know we're only talking, a year or 2, but at his age and with some of the wear and tear on his body, that's almost like double. So yeah, I'm going to say no.
Yeah, think about it this way too, George, just really quick. Like if we're handicapping, if Usman does get a title fight, like if Jack Della Maddalena beats Islam Makhachev, you assume it would be in a way that would be very impressive and he's stopping grappling and maybe knocks him out or something. So like how differently are we going to think of Jack if he wins that fight as champion going into an Usman fight? And then I think Islam is just kind of a bad style matchup for Usman regardless. Maybe the strength and the grappling of Usman offensively is hard to overcome, but I don't think he's like a giant favorite or even the favorite at all going into either of those fights.
Yeah, exactly. I think he could beat Gary, Prachas, Rachmanov, believe it or not, maybe even Della Maddalena, but I think Brady and Bilal would be a little bit tougher to implement what he did on Saturday night. They got motors as well. But man, it's fun. What a deep division. And again, congrats, Kamaru, on that comeback. You gave Father Time an L. How about that shot that Muhammad did? He picked the fight right away, Nolan. He went on social media. And then Usman, of course, played the card on him. But what do you think, man? Like, you think it's inevitable? Like that is the fight to make? I mean, we've missed out on a few, right? The 3-piece in Minnesota. Ngannou versus Jones, man, we can't be missing out on some of these fights that have that type of heat, especially with us not even knowing what went down in that studio.
Yeah, for me, I very much like it. I think it's a fight that sometimes I think the trash talk talks you into accepting, like as a fan, accepting that a matchup can take place or liking that matchup. But I actually think divisionally, this one just makes sense too, right? Like Bilal needs that rebound fight from losing the title. Kamaru, I don't necessarily like him being matched with like Brady or Shavkat. So I like this fight a lot. I think it makes sense. There's some heat behind it. 2 veteran guys, kind of a super fight of yesteryear, so to speak, former champions. So yeah, book it. I think this is the fight to make.
And as far as Joaquin Buckley, Mike laid it out in his matchmaker piece on yesterday. He likes Prachas. Any other names you guys might like? You like another name, or do you think that's a fair one? That sounds pretty exciting to me.
It's really like when you break it down, Mike, I was like, that's perfect. I don't see another name that would make any more sense rankings wise, the way they fight. I think that's the perfect call.
Yeah, I do as well. All right, good stuff there. We can always come back to it. I'm gonna try and keep an eye on some of these comments. Sometimes you guys pour in just as I'm getting into topic number 2. But if you hit that like button, like I said, I'll try and merge the two because now we're gonna cover the rest of the UFC Atlanta card. Rose Namajunas, how about her, man? Former strawweight champ. Now she's 3-2 as a flyweight. So a lot of mixed results out there in Atlanta, some good and some bad. The mobile phone lights were out there. Fans were definitely voicing their displeasure, boo birds, but then some roaring. I thought Doug Rose had an exciting fight, even though it went to a decision. She had to dig deep against Miranda Maverick. Nolan King, react, and then tell us where this win puts Namajunas in that crowded flyweight division.
Yeah, man, she just won't go away. You know, it's been fascinating. I think for MMA fighters, a lot of times the trajectory of their career is pretty linear, right? It goes up and then kind of maybe plateaus and goes down. But for her, I mean, every time that she loses, she comes back. She looks pretty good. She beats tough fighters. I mean, we've seen it right with her different title reigns and switching divisions. So yeah, I thought she looked decent. You know, Miranda Maverick's a tough test. I think she's somebody that doesn't get enough credit. She's somebody that fights everybody. She has some of her losses have been fighters that ended up that have gone on to do great things, and that the losses have aged well. So I think it was good matchmaking by the UFC. I think Rose is back on track now. I'm not exactly sure where it puts her in the division. Like, I think she's somebody, when I said the thing about Kamaru earlier, right, that he might get that tiebreaker because of his title reign previously. I almost feel like she might have that work against her a little bit, in that she's kind of had a lot of opportunities. Like, I almost wonder if the promotion might see some sort of fatigue, right, when it comes to putting Rose in title fights or title eliminators. But again, she's proven to be one of the toughest fighters in the division. She's never really that far away from a title fight. So yeah, I think another win or two, and you know, she's right there again.
Mike, Joseph Bosa's in the chat room saying he likes Jasmine next for Rose in Vancouver. That's a different style mix matchup. I was a little warm to Alexa Grasso and Nunes throwing hands. Sorry, and Namajunas throwing hands. What are your thoughts? That's your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I don't mind that fight at all. I love everything except the final 2 words of Joseph Bosa's comments there that you did not include, saying it should be the main event. I think we can do better than that for Vancouver, but I love the fight, and I think it would be a great one for this division. I think you can't really go wrong with Rose, but it's just going to depend on who gets the next title shot against Valentina. If it's Wei Li, then that opens up Natalia Silva for her as well, which would definitely be like the biggest win in terms of getting you to the title shot the fastest. But for names, Grasso's great, Jasmine's great. You could do those in Mexico or Canada. So Rose would kind of be in enemy territory regardless there. I don't mind any of those fights, but for her, I think it's going to be tough to get to that belt. To me, I just see her in there, and no matter how she tries to add to her flyweight frame, I think these girls that are cutting down from probably like 140 to 125 are just going to be a problem for her at the very highest level of the division. So I think this is kind of going to be her path. She'll win a few, lose one, maybe at the highest spot, and that'll be it for however long she keeps to continue doing this.
Mike, did the UFC treat Blanchfield's, the events that happened a few weeks ago, almost as a win for her? Like, do you think she kind of progressed up just because she obviously didn't progress down?
Sure, maybe a little, but again, all going to depend on what happens in the next title fight. Like, is it, if it's Wei Li and she fights Shevchenko and she wins, I could see a rematch scenario there. If she loses, then, you know, we move on to someone else for Valentina. There's some people ahead of her in line for Aaron. So yeah, I think even if she had gone out there and, you know, trucked Macy Barber in round 1, she probably was going to have to fight again after that. So I think if anything, it just kind of kept her in the same spot.
So you think if Wei Li and Shevchenko isn't made, Blanchfield isn't the number 1 contender? You think Silva might have leapfrogged her, or?
I think they probably do Silva. Yeah, that would be my feeling. I don't know. Like, we saw, you know, Aaron lose not terribly long ago. So I don't know. That feels like the fight that happens to me, but it also depends on like what market they'd want to put the fight in. Is it going to be in Brazil? Then she certainly gets it. If it's America, maybe Aaron, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like Aaron still has to win one more no matter what happens.
All right, I got it. Goes, tell me if you like this. And Mike, you can nod because it has to do with Vancouver. Blanchfield, let's have her fight Jasmine, not a main event. We'll put her in the 3rd fight from the top or something like that. And then goes San Antonio, Grasso, Namajunas throwing hands in September. I think that's enough time for Rose to get better, right? And start a new camp. What do you think?
In San Antonio, look, I like it, but stylistically, the way that Grasso boxes, if Namajunas goes out there and pumps that jab, throws that front kick the way she does, she's going to give her a lot of problems. That it would be a fun fight. I'd be down with it.
All right. Well, that's a very crowded division. It's probably the best one in women's MMA right now. Congrats to Rose. She looked really, really good. How about that controversy, fellas, with Paul Craig and Rodolfo Bellato? It ended in a no contest. I still haven't really been able to figure out what the heck went on. I mean, I knew it right away it was an illegal shot because I saw one knee that was down. And then as they're sorting everything out, I go, okay, well, this fight's not going to continue because this guy's giving us the symptoms of someone that's been knocked out. But did Kevin McDonald, well, I'm butchering names today, did he just get it wrong and count it as a KO the whole time? Or what was going on? What have you guys been doing? I even heard McCarthy talk about it yesterday on his Weighing In podcast, and all he did was clarify that it was an illegal foul. But what the hell happened, guys? Nolan?
Yeah, it was weird, man. It's one of those things where, as the outsider, you look at it and it did look a bit dramatic, right? There was signs like Bellato looking at the referee before he fell backward, and then the thing where he kind of jumped scared awake and was sliding across the canvas. So I certainly understand why people think it was a bit theatrical. On the other hand, I know getting hit in the head can do weird things, right? Like we've seen it in the past with like Shane Burgos when he got hit against Barbosa and he started fighting again, and then all of a sudden he fell over. There's times where guys look like they don't really get hit that hard and they end up going out really badly, right? So it's for an outsider, I don't think we'll ever know in terms of like what actually happened in his mind, in his brain. If the lights went out for some reason, it's really impossible to say. We can speculate, we can debate. It's just an impossible thing to ever know. The only person that can know is him. I will say his track record has been to be in these absolute savage wars, like he was in Austin a few years ago. So he's not a guy that's like a quitter by any means. He's gotten beaten up extremely badly at certain times in his UFC career, and he keeps going. So I like to give him the benefit of the doubt. In terms of the way that it was refereed and handled, I think it was pretty confusing. It should have been, again, it's easy for us to say, maybe there could have been some more clarity on kind of what was playing out there. Ultimately, it was the no contest. So I think they got it right. But I think he was up on the scorecards too when that happened. So I don't know. It's a weird situation. It's easy for people on the couch to kind of try to play psychologist, and you throw betting in and gambling. People are pissed, right? So I don't know, man. I'm not as fired up about it as other people are because I just don't think that we'll ever know.
Do you want to see them run it back? Which would mean Paul Craig signs a new contract, because I think that was the last fight on his contract.
Correct.
That guy's got some wins a lot earlier in his career. I think the face painting, his intensity, I've always kind of just dug the guy. I'd love for him to get another chance, but I don't know if he'll ever be a world champ. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I don't know if the world is clamoring for it. I wouldn't mind seeing it because, like Nolan said, it is difficult to call someone out on something like that, right? Like these guys already getting in the cage. To me, that's crazy doing this in front of so many people. I think the one thing that does stick out, though, I've watched it 3 times. I still don't really know what exactly happened, but seeing other fighters who have been in these situations kind of react to that. And they're kind of not really feeling that situation. He did go down like a Mike Tyson's Punch-Out character. And when he kind of came back, then he didn't. I would say it's enough to say, let's do it again. But yeah, when you look at the logistics involved and what you would actually have to do that, maybe this is one where the UFC says, let's just let this go.
What do you think, Mike? New contract, Paul Craig, did he possibly get saved by the no contest?
Maybe a little. I mean, I would like to see him stick around just because how many light heavyweights are there even out there that you can sign that are like UFC quality, so to speak? I feel like we've seen everything we need to see out of Paul Craig, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have his usefulness on this roster. It definitely was a weird one. I don't want to sit here and accuse the guy of flopping and all that stuff, as Nolan laid out perfectly. Like, he has a pretty proven track record. This fight was supposed to happen a few weeks ago. It didn't on like fight day. He went and cut the weight all over again. Like, these are things you're not doing if you're looking for an easy way out. And then, as Nolan said as well, he was winning the fight. So sit here and explain to me like why he would do that in a fight he was ahead. He didn't get the DQ win, so therefore he didn't get a win bonus. So like, this guy, if he had some grand plan to like get out of the fight early because his heart wasn't in it or his mind wasn't in it, what was the upside of doing that? Because I've yet to see anyone point this out to me. So like, if someone can answer me that, maybe you'll change my mind. Like, it's fun for Anthony Smith to sit up there and, say he was acting and all this shit and he's seen it. But to me, it didn't really, I don't know. I want to give these fighters the benefit of the doubt in this scenario. But my biggest opinion is it should have been a DQ, because Paul Craig meant to throw that shot in that position. It was illegal. He thought he was up, and I don't know how you can say it was unintentional. He intentionally threw that strike thinking it would be legal. It should be legal. I think that's a stupid rule that you can't up kick from bottom position, but that's a whole other discussion. So I don't know. Like, I think we just kind of got to accept that this was a very weird scenario. As Nolan pointed out, great. You take shots to the head, weird things happen all the time. So let's give the guy kind of a mulligan on the scenario and stop hating a little bit. But it was definitely weird, and I think it was handled improperly.
I've never liked that rule, because where you're at in your back, your line of sight is nowhere near whether their knees are touching or not. It's like it's very difficult. They need to get rid of that.
Yeah. Mike, are you saying soccer kicks? You want those back too?
I mean, I'm pro all that stuff. I would take knees to the head of a grounded opponent before soccer kicks. I understand the worry of soccer kicks, guys' heads pressed up against the fence. You do that stuff, nowhere to go. It's much more, I think, viable in a ring as opposed to a cage, but we don't need to go that far. But certainly kicks, upward shots from the fighters on their back, knees to a ground opponent, I'm all for that.
UFC 1, how much do you think that tooth is worth? The one that flew out of Taylor Tully's mouth when Gerard Gourdort soccer kicked him. Holy cow, man. They were off to a great start, the UFC back then. In the chat room, they're saying he sold it. Zay415 is saying it. Mark England saying an absolute farce. The guy should be reprimanded for bringing the sport into disrepute. I will say this. When I listen to McCarthy, he did compare it to something. Have you ever seen those guys on those slingshot rides that are scared and then they go out and then they come back, they're cheering again or whatever, and then they go out? He says maybe the brain is wacky. Maybe it was something like that.
It is. I mean, I don't know. That moment where he like butt scooted to the fence and was looking around and like wrestling with the ref, like you could see in his eyes that was not a guy who's like completely there. That just look of like fear he had in that one moment of like, what the hell just happened? And then in his statement, he said he got hit with the kick and then looked at the ref and then like pretty much blacked out after that. He doesn't remember anything. So I don't know. It's a weird one. I'd like to give these fighters the benefit of the doubt, but who knows? Maybe he's pulling wool over all of our eyes.
Well, I don't know if there's a fight card scheduled for Brazil, but if they're gonna match him up, do it there. Paul Craig likes to travel anyway. Let's run it back. All right. I need another highlight from Atlanta just to wrap things up. And by the way, I do want to give a shout out. There was a great comment up above when we were tossing all those names. We cannot forget about Michael Morales. He's undefeated, and he just had a statement win too over Gilbert Burns. So some love to the Ecuadorian. All right, another highlight from the card. Nolan, who did you like from ATL? Let's give some love to him.
How about Jose Ochoa, man? He looked great. That was, to come in his debut, he lost to Loner Kavanaugh, who's another great prospect by unanimous decision. Then he comes in and fights Cody Durden, who I think is just a really tough outing for anybody, never mind in your second UFC fight. So to go out there, have a fun fight like that, and ultimately put him away, put him out, really, an actual, not just TKO, but the knockout was great. So shout out to him. Pretty promising young prospect. And it also makes you wonder how good Kavanaugh is to have soundly beat him a few months ago. So shout out to Peru's own Jose Ochoa.
Yeah, 8-1 now. Got himself 50K or 180,000 soles. How about you, Mike? Who did you like from ATL?
The man who got screwed out of a bonus, Phil Rowe. I mean, come on. Like, what more do you have to do? You're an underdog. You're down 2 rounds. Your corner tells you, gave him the Leon Edwards speech almost against Usman. He went out there and did the damn thing. So that was super impressive. He should have got his bonus money there. I thought that was pretty unfortunate that he got screwed out of that. So we'll give him the bonus of a shout out right here.
Yeah, it was clutch. And this is the one time UFC could have said, we're going to bonus all the finishers, because he would have been the only other one. How about you guys?
I like Malcolm Wellmaker. I think a lot of promise there. And the timing on that shot, dude, was impeccable. I think this kid can really be something special, and he's fun to hear, when they give him the mic as well. I got a quick question for you though, George. No one there brought up Peru, and we're gonna get to it. PFL, you're in Peru. Have people been talking about this? 2 Peruvians on UFC and PFL. Does that make the news, or do they not care?
Okay, it's not as big as soccer, but there's a lot of gyms I'm seeing popping up. And now when you bring up UFC, that's the key word. You know what? You know who's blowing up over here is Ilia Topuria. And of course, you still hear about Jones and McGregor, but Ilia Topuria is beloved, man. So in a few weeks, when UFC 317 fight card takes place, that's going to be big. And then, of course, he's got another favorite in front of him in Charles Oliveira. So it's definitely blowing up, and it's helping, obviously, that Borjas beat Lazy Boy in Mexico. Pinedo just KO'd Braga, and now we have Jose Ochoa. I know Daniel Marcos took his first L, but still, they're fighting like once a month is a pretty good thing. All right, guys, good stuff there from the Atlanta card. Let's move on here. Speaking of PFL, this past Thursday, the PFL kicked off their semifinal rounds in their world tournaments. We had welterweights and featherweights on display. Let's start off at the top. As Thad Jean bested Jason Jackson via split decision, he moves on to face Logan Starley in the final. Thoughts on the controversial decision goes? I think you've rewatched it a few times, right? Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I had to go back. Look, I'm not gonna lie, it was very, very close, and I'm not upset with anybody that thinks Jackson won. I rewatched it. I still think I'm okay with Gene being the winner, but very, very close fight. And I mean that's kind of the recipe. Like if it's gonna be close, you really don't have very many people to argue with other than yourself, right? I mean, leaving it in the hands of the judges in that close style. I'm okay with Gene, but I'm also okay with Jackson. It was that close. It was razor thin.
And then when you lose, Mike, it's almost like you're in this 8-month Ramadan with the PFL, because you can't do nothing until they start next April unless they squeeze in one of those pay-per-view cards or whatever. So I feel bad for Jackson. That's how much these losses mean out there.
It's true. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, I think some of the people who lost in opening round fights have been booked on the prelims of some of these cards, like in these tournaments. So,
like Primus, true.
Yeah, so it seems like maybe they at least are giving you some degree of activity. Like maybe Jason Jackson has a fight on one of these championship cards over the summer. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, this is the format, right, that they agreed to and set up. So hopefully these guys are getting paid enough to hold them over, whatever the case may be, or there's some sort of language in there. Maybe they can go fight. We've seen some PFL guys take fights elsewhere in different sports and things like that. So I don't know what the future holds in that regard, but I know Jason Jackson probably very disappointed with this because he was being on a very nice run in the PFL world, but this was the best result for PFL. Like that Gene seems like he's got a little something, and they need anyone who has a little something at this point. So good result for PFL.
He's that overlooked welterweight from Kill Cliff, so I've always cheered for him. And then he went out in Bellator and did his thing. Would have been nice if he got himself $500K and another belt. You know who didn't leave it to the judges, Nolan, is Jesus Pinedo against Gabriel Braga, his old friend. They're 1-1. And, man, this thing didn't even get out of the first. I mean, pinpoint, straight lefts, right on the money. He clowned him.
Yeah, tremendous, man. He's really one of the guys that PFL should be putting their weight behind, right? I think his story is interesting, and he's just a savage. I mean, he's gone out there. He's just knocking people out left and right. It's so funny. I almost forget that he was in the UFC all those years ago. He was so green at the time. I think they were, trying to expand into some of the Latin American markets a little bit more and get some fighters in. And you could tell like the tools were there, but he didn't really know how to use them yet. So he has 2 fights in the UFC. They didn't give him, I think they just cut him after the second fight. Right? Yeah, he went 1-1 and they cut him, which was kind of weird. And then, he grinds his way back and he's just killing it for PFL, making probably a buttload of money. So good for him, man. He's a savage, and he's somebody when PFL rolls around and you're kind of thinking, oh, like some of these cards are monotonous. Like no matter when he fights, he's going to be circled for me going forward.
Yeah, quick prediction: Movlid or Pinedo?
It's tough, man. Styles make fights. I'm going to go after I said all those nice things about Pinedo. I'm going to lean with Movlid. I think he's getting slept on a little bit.
What turned you on to Lomo Saltados? You've been eating Peruvian food all over the United States, and you stab us in the back like that?
Hey, I broke even. I picked Ochoa as my pick from last weekend. So,
all right. How about you, Goes? Little home cooking, or are you going with Movlid too?
How do you go against Movlid at this point? He's basically everybody's kryptonite, right? Like you can't physically say you think he's going to lose. Could Pinedo do it? Yes, of course. But it's going to have to be quick, man. I think we're going to know early on how that fight's going to go.
Mike, you don't see Movlid walking into a knee? That guy's got some good elbows and a nice knee game.
Sure. I mean, he certainly could, but my rule of thumb is if your name ends with EV, you're probably getting some PFL money. So.
All right. Well, if you guys change your mind, Lomo Saltados on me the next time you guys are in Vegas, because I'm going to cash in on that underdog money. How about Thad Gene? Give me an early lead on Thad Gene and Logan Storley. Back to Nolan.
I'm going to go with that Gene, man. I think Storley is a tough style matchup for him, but I also think Storley is aging a little bit. He's a little slower than he used to be. Happens to everybody, right? It's not an insult, but I'm going to lean with Gene.
Goes?
First 2 minutes tells us everything. Storley's been taking a little bit more damage in fights than he has in the past, so I'm leaning towards Gene.
I do like him at welterweight. I like Gene as well. How about you, Mike? Unanimous?
Yeah, let's make it unanimous. Storley is kind of had a lot of ups and downs, and it feels like this spot is kind of the one he's been unable to break through. And I think that Gene probably has infinitely more motivation to get this done. So we'll see. But they have the No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, I'm good.
Okay. This weekend, by the way, is PFL 6. It's on Friday. Last week's show was on Thursday. So just pointing you all towards ESPN on Friday. Check it out. PFL now has they have Liz Carmouche. They're going to do women's flyweight. And they have like 3 divisions battling there as they go from the semifinals to the finals. Earlier start time than last week's Thursday event. Okay.
Can't get much later.
Mm-hmm.
Can't get much later. So
this is true. All right, guys. So let's go through some of the MMA news and fight bookings from this past week. Some good stuff out there. Petr Yan against Marcus McGee. That's a nice gift for Marcus McGee. Mike Bond. I was championing Petr Yan to be next for Merab Dvalishvili. It does look like Corey Sandhagen's going to get that one. So McGee can steal all that and take it for him. He might be next if he gets this win out there in the Middle East.
Yeah, you guys had a great interview with Marcus. Huge opportunity for him. This is just one of those things we see happen from time to time, right? The guy will fight down significantly just purely out of activity. So credit to Yan for taking this, but not surprised at all. This guy's a true fighter to his core and doesn't care about all this politics for the most part, unless he's really caught up in it. But I don't think he was getting the next shot anyways, given how one-sided his fight with Merab was in terms of the scorecards. So this is the right move from Petr Yan. And I keep saying this, taking this fight and going out there and styling on Marcus McGee and making him a highlight for you, even if he's 13, would do more than if he fought Umar and won a super close split decision or something. So go out there and make the most and show why this is lopsided in the rankings. Then I think you can still call for your title fight.
It's a good point. All right. Nolan, how about this one? Royval versus Van. Joshua Van just won at UFC 316. Now he's stepping in at UFC 317 2 times in June of 2025. The young man from Myanmar is going to throw down. Brandon Royval, I got early odds, minus 125. Joshua Van plus 105. Can Van, with a big win, get a title shot, Nolan?
I think so, man. I mean, he's incredible. The rate in which he fights for his entire career has been something that I'm not sure I've seen before. He takes on everybody. It looks great in almost every fight. Last fight, right, against Bruno Silva, just totally lopsided, one-sided performance. He's put forth a few of those in his UFC career. His boxing is unbelievable. So I love this fight. This is a huge step up, right? This is a huge gap between anything that he's done before and Brandon Royval. But I think that's what makes it intriguing, right? And it will make more of a statement. If he goes out there and he puts on a great performance against Royval, I think he's really undeniable at this point. And for Royval, I think, he's a guy that's right there as well, right? This was supposed to be a title eliminator for him when he was fighting Cap. Now that that's not happening, I think it still has to be that. So I do think that either way, either scenario here, I do think this is a title eliminator for the 125-pound division. And I think regardless, we're in for a fantastic fight. The most exciting division in MMA with 2 of their most exciting fighters fighting each other. Yeah, sign me up.
Goes Jared Cannonier versus Michael Venom Page. This is taking place at UFC 319. So we still got a bit there until they fight in mid-August in Chicago. You like Venom Page at middleweight? I feel like he did it once and it was kind of like, okay, I'm good. Whereas at welterweight, I was kind of excited to see if he could, if he had any gas left in that tank, because he did come over as an upper 30-year-old from Bellator.
No, I don't. I'm one of the guys that don't like him at that. I'm not saying he can't be successful. I want fighters at their best. And I think at his best, at the welterweight division, I think he loses a little bit of quickness, in my opinion, in middleweight. It's a decent fight. It's a good fight. I'll tune in, but it kind of shows you a little bit maybe where his mentality is for the rest of his career.
I got some more news here to discuss. We're a little bit past halfway. We still got 20 minutes to go. If you guys can hit the like button, it would really, really help us out a lot. Let me share this comment, though, from the last topic. It was pretty funny. Let me see. It was whoever, where'd it go? I lost it. But their point was whoever booked Moutinho versus Wellmaker should be put in prison. It did look that way, man. Moutinho, he's the kid that had the green hair and had a tough matchup years ago, I think against O'Malley. And so he had a lot of heart, but he looked soft. It was late notice, and it did look like one of those things. So it kind of cracked me up there. You guys saw me giggling right in the middle of the show. Fellas, Usman Nurmagomedov gets a new title challenger. That's the lightweight champ at PFL. Remember, him and Paul Hughes had a classic in early 2025. Paul Hughes has since then gotten himself a win, right? Thought he could maybe get back in there so they could run it back. And again, PFL capitalized on your rivalries, your great fights. Instead, they're going with another opponent. Is that a mistake, Mike Bond? Should they have done Hughes against Usman too? What do you think?
I think so, yeah. I didn't mind the idea of Paul Hughes getting the one win, but now we're talking about 2 wins. Like, that seems a little just illogical. The lightweight division feels like a bit of a mess right now. Like, we have, as we'll get into this week, main event is Gadzi Rabadana versus Kevin Lee, and Gadzi is a very close training partner with Usman and is from Team Habib. They've all been friends since they were kids and stuff. So, like, if he wins this tournament again, he's not going to fight Usman. So you kind of have to designate this other fight, and then you have Paul Hughes out there. Like, it's just a bit of a crapshoot in terms of if, Usman and Gadzi keep winning. So you have this big fight right there. Paul Hughes isn't in the tournament either. Like, I don't understand why you would not go with that now. And Usman said when we spoke, what was it, in September, like, Paul Hughes gets 1 win and we're good to do the rematch. So I'm curious to know why and how the goalposts are moving. And it's not him saying this, it's PFL announcing this as a title eliminator, which Paul Hughes, as you saw in his response on social media, he's like, what is this rage bait? So we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Goes in boxing. I know you like yourself some boxing. Dana White announced officially Canelo versus Crawford is on Netflix on September 13th. It'll go ahead up against his own UFC show, which is the Noche UFC show in San Antonio. But how big is this, man? On Netflix, the UFC, obviously, there's rumors of them possibly taking their show there in the future. Nothing official there, but these are 2 of the great pound-for-pound fighters, not just now, but in the history of boxing.
I mean, it's a great fight. It's the boxing fan in me is dying to see it. The part that I'm a little worried about is actually the Netflix side, because missing a couple rounds in a Tyson Paul fight, I could live with that. Missing rounds in a fight like this, of this magnitude, they really, really need to figure all that out and make sure that they're giving us a quality broadcast, because these 2 fighters at this level, they deserve that, and boxing fans deserve that.
Yeah, no doubt. You going to be in that stadium? Sacrifice the Noche night, and that's pretty historical, right?
Well, from what it sounds like, the card might be happening before Noche ends, right? We'll see what they ultimately end up doing. I know Oscar De La Hoya said it might be earlier. I don't think it's going to be the daytime card that he said, but like, to me, if you start the main card or the main event like 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern, you're wrapping it up before Noche presumably starts 10 p.m. Eastern. Like, if you're trying to make this a massive global thing, I think having it in an earlier time slot is best, because then that's what, like 9 o'clock in Europe, things like that. So you're accommodating the most time zones possible. But Oscar De La Hoya made it sound like this fight was going to happen at like 1:30 in the afternoon. I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, I hope not.
I mean, I think it would be smart, right? Like, think about, you got a massive audience that you're trying to tune into boxing using their Netflix subscription. Like, what is the first thing when we watch MMA that like is the easy complaint, right? Which is pacing, which is time, stuff like that. Like, make this like an enjoyable experience for people, and I think it will be worth it in the long run. Maybe I'm naive, but it would make a lot of sense, man. That would be great if they would do something like that.
Mm-hmm. You don't want that OG Triller card with arm wrestling and slapping?
Ice fighting.
No, let's stay with you. What's going on here with Lopez and Rodriguez? They got heat. They should make it happen. It looks like Rodriguez is saying, I got an injury. But a few weeks ago, wasn't he saying, hey, when they were going to Guadalajara for a pay-per-view, he wanted to fight for a title? Is this one of those where he would have fought with an injury, or what do you think, man? I really like this matchup. We wish they'd make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's the no-brainer one. Obviously, if somebody's hurt, they're hurt. I do think Yair in general, and this is going to sound like a dig, but it's not. he's a very tough person for the UFC to book at times. Like, I think from everything I've heard, he's very selective about when and where. The matchmakers have told other opponents that when they're trying to make the fights happen, that he's difficult to deal with. So, and again, there's an element of self-advocation in that as well. So I can't hate on it, but yeah, as a fan, I want to see that fight. It's got the heat. Throwing it on the Noche card would be fantastic. It's super meaningful for the division. Like, it just checks pretty much every box, right? 5 rounds of those guys, like, come on, that's awesome.
That's the one I'm looking forward to. Probably top 5, top 3 the most this year if they can make it happen. And Lopez is he's the opposite. He's everywhere. He's either fighting or front row. All right, I want you all to chime in on this one. Justin Gaethje, one of the all-time greats in our sport. He's considering retirement if he's not next, according to his manager. So again, Mike Bond talking to Ali Abdelaziz. Is this the right call, guys? Is this posturing, leverage, or does he really have that much of, I guess, he just stands his ground. Goes, what do you think, man? What do you want to see it end this way?
I don't. I understand why he wants to stand his ground and why he wants to prove a point. But you're trying to prove a point to people who don't really care. At the end of the day, there's always going to be other superstars. There's going to be people that are waiting to take your spot. I think you have to pick and choose your battles, and I just don't know what leg he has to stand on here at this point.
No, Mike, why wouldn't he be next? Because we got Topuria versus Oliveira, and it's coming up soon. Mm-hmm. And then I could see Gaethje fighting the winner at the end of the year. I mean, Sarukian's not putting any pressure because he hasn't fought since landing in the doghouse, right? Sure. Or is there another name out there? Why is all this kind of even being talked about?
Well, it depends on who wins the title fight, first of all, right? Like, I think if Ilia Topuria wins, they're going to look hard at a fight with Paddy Pimblett. The grudge match there. Maybe something happens with Islam. If he wins, maybe he comes back down or something. Like, Ilia is going to be going for those super big fights. If Charles wins, I think that's where it gets a little more interesting. Like, is it Max Holloway if he wins the BMF fight the following month? Could it be Gaethje? Could it be Arman? There's a lot of guys out there, but this isn't fully just from Ali. Like, Gaethje did confirm these comments in a podcast he did, and when Goes asked like the leg he has to stand on, I think it's the argument he articulated, right? He was on a 2-fight winning streak. They came to him to fight Max Holloway when they were in desperate need of more depth for UFC 300. He put his ranking on the line, his title shot on the line, obviously didn't go his way, and then came back and beat another guy who he put his risk on by fighting on short notice that he had already beaten in Fiziev. So like, he has done some stuff here, but unless you get the stuff in writing or whatever, like,
they don't care.
Do not expect the UFC to do, I guess, the right thing or the logical thing from your perspective. So like, how many times have we seen this where maybe very late in the day of some fighters' careers, they kind of maybe see the light in how the relationship with the UFC management can be one-sided at times in terms of, give and take. But this situation isn't over. As you said off the top, George, I think there's a very real chance he gets the winner of this title fight, and this is all for naught. But he is articulating how he feels, how he thinks he's stepped up and maybe hasn't got back what he's given to them. So we'll see how it shakes out. I can't imagine if he doesn't get the fight, though, he's just going to walk away. And the UFC.
I love this topic, and I'm going to steal a minute or two from the next one because Goz and I kind of talked about this yesterday, and now we got 2 of the leading reporters in the sport here with Nolan and Mike. So Nolan, I'll go to you and then back to Mike. I feel like fighters say that, right? I heard Kamaru Usman saying, hey, I took the fight against Hamzat on 10 days notice. And you'll hear other fighters feeling like they did these solids, Fajeda 3 times in a year or whatever, fist bumps everywhere. But doesn't the UFC pay that off by writing you a bigger check? Not necessarily by a favor down the road. I thought they usually kind of took care of it by going, you got us an extra 0 on the check. Nolan, you're in the inner workings with managers. You go first.
Yeah. I mean, there's a thing called an LOA, which is a letter of agreement. I think fighters, it can be attached to a fight. It can be attached to multiple fights. Oftentimes when there is a fallout or if there's something short notice, that can be negotiated on the side so it doesn't come up actually in the pay. Part of that is, I think, because it won't get released to the public. Another part of it is because they can write it off in Nevada where there's no taxes. If you're fighting in Sydney and you don't have to give up 40, whatever it is, $100,000 of tax. You can just do it in Nevada where you don't have to pay any. So it's fairly common. Again, it's kind of a side letter is another term for it, but it is something that they do in certain scenarios, particularly ones where there's last minute fallouts, and the more desperate the UFC gets to book this fight and have somebody in this slot, those get broken out, and they get broken out other times too. Like, I'm sure we got pay from Georgia that just came in. Like, Kamaru Usman was listed at $300K. I would assume, just knowing my industry, that he probably gets paid more than that with the side letter. But then, there's other fighters, the ones that are on the come up, newer guys, that probably what you see is what you get. They'll just negotiate a new contract for a little bit more, and that will be their offset. So that's kind of how, generally, I can't speak to every scenario and specifics, but that's kind of how it plays out.
Mike, you want to add to any of that? I mean, that sounds pretty interesting. I didn't know about no side letter. I thought in this sport all we had was side pieces.
Yeah, no, Nolan laid it out well. I don't have a ton to add to that, but yeah, these are some of the things where if you do get one of these and you can somehow get it in writing, then, that's great for you. I think Sean Strickland may have been in that scenario, and that's why he, despite all the stuff, got that rematch with Drickus when he did. So falls on managers, the fighters, make your demands known, get them in writing. I think another recent example of this, leading into one of the previous things, was Yair Rodriguez, right? He said he was told if he fought Pitbull, he would get the title shot. I don't know how ironclad that was. So
yeah,
more to say.
Poirier got his shot and Makhachev got his shot. So yeah, put it all in writing.
We'll hold our thoughts in when we start the management business for MMA fighters when we're all retired.
All right. Let's talk about a big fight coming up this weekend out in Baku, Azerbaijan. I hope I pronounced that right. Khalil Roundtree against Jamal Hill. Mike, will stay with you. You just hung up the phone with Jamal Hill. You're saying he seems different from in other fights. Very, very laser focused. Only on this fight, though. No more strap talk, right?
Yeah, no getting too far ahead, putting the cart before the horse, all that stuff, the war horse. Khalil Roundtree. Yeah, we'll see what that leads to, but he said he's healthy, good mentally, had a great training camp, was out there with the Enjikwani gym for a little bit during this camp and did the rest of Michigan. So I'm curious to see, man, like how this guy comes back, how Khalil comes back after that beating against Alex Pereira. I know he had some great moments in there, but took a ton of damage. And those are the ones that can kind of change you a little bit. So fascinating fight, a great intro for Baku. And yeah, I don't expect this one to last all that long.
Because I'd normally say, can he get back to that title fight? Because he performed well, like Mike said. He was up 2-1 going into the championship rounds, and then he got starched and finished. But that guy's no longer champ. It's Magomed Ankalaev, who's saying, by the way, that Pereira doesn't want to fight him right now. And this is kind of a shallow division. What do you think this means for Roundtree?
Well, I mean, I can't remember who said it earlier in the program, but it's like this division just needs fresh life. And I feel like it's a roulette wheel. Really, if you put on a really good performance, I feel like anybody can really bark on that door and get right in. But stylistically, this is the fight you want. This is the fight where you can prove a point. Neither guy's going to back off. They're both going to come forward. Like, this is going to be chaos. I don't think it makes it to the judges. And, if that's true, if Jamal Hill's working with the Njokuani brothers, and we know what they do over there at that gym. They beat the crap out of each other, stand up, and you know what Khalil Roundtree's all about. So I think it's a great fight, and I think a good performance really could springboard you closer to a title shot.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm really, really pumped for this one. And this is an early start time, by the way, because they're like 12 hours ahead of us, if I'm not mistaken. So check your local listings on that one. Early prediction from you, Nolan King, or chime in and give us your thoughts on the fight, and then start with the early predictions. We'll go around the horn.
Yeah, I think it's great, man. I love this card. It's kind of one for the hardcores, right? And also a daytime card, so I can't get mad. New market too, which is cool. Main event's great. I love it. I think it's one of those fights. I don't know if we'll need the 5 rounds. That's the only part. Whenever we get light heavyweights on the top of the bill, right? We kind of think it might end early. As for a pick, kind of tough to tell. I mean, what Khalil Roundtree is going to look like right after the Pereira fight, and then Jamal kind of has been inconsistent as well. So I'm going to lean with Roundtree actually. Just I don't know. Maybe I'm riding high off of the battle with Alex, but I'm going to lean into him and say that he gets it done.
Yeah, and prior to that, he had a 5-fight win streak, so he wasn't chopped liver going into that title fight. But Goes, who do you like in this one, man?
I think if Hill can be more the patient fighter, I think things can go his way. However, Roundtree has this way of making you fight his fight. And I think that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to go Roundtree.
Mike, unanimous, or do you like Hill?
Nah, I'm going to go with Hill. I'm still in the afterglow of our interview, so I don't want to shit on him too hard right now. But no, like even without that, I do think he's got a very good chance here. He does seem like he is healthy or healthier than he's been in a while, and his confidence is all there. So I don't know. I bought up all the Jamal Hill stock early, and I'm not fully selling it yet. I think despite the past 2 fights, he's still very capable of getting back to the top of this division. And I know there's a lot of bad fan sentiment out there towards him as well that skews a lot of people's vision. So let's lend some positivity behind some Jamal Hill here.
Yeah, no, I'm leaning towards Roundtree on this one, but man, in the chat, I'm seeing the title shot could be on the line. Let's not forget Yuri Prochazka. He looked good in his last fight. He's out there doing his academia, but still, I'm sure he's sellable. He's a former champ. We'll see what happens with this whole Ankalaev and Pereira thing.
Don't forget about Carlos Alberg either.
Yeah, can't forget about the Kiwi. He's been smoking fools too. In that co-main event, who's got more to lose, guys? Fiziev or Bahamundes? Fiziev was kind of where Bahamundes wants to get to at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's kind of had a little bit of a downfall, and Bahamundes is surging upward. Mike, start off here. What do you see going down in this fight? And then give me your early lean.
Ooh, I see a very good striking match. I want to say Fiziev. I mean, he's going to have an insane crowd support behind him. I still think he's very good. He's only losing to the absolute elite of this division. So I think he's still good enough to beat Bahamundes, but obviously we haven't seen Ignacio in a spot like this, a fighter of this caliber. So maybe he is on that level and we've yet to figure it out yet. But I'd probably pick Fiziev decision.
All right, how about you guys? Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, Fiziev, he doesn't really get blown out in fights. Even when he loses, he's just a gamer, man. He's really tough. But Bahamundes, this is your chance to take the next step, right? This is the perfect guy. But I'm leaning towards Fiziev in this one.
I am as well, and not because Chile is a main rival of Peru. I really like Bahamundes. I've been cheering for him, but Fiziev is laser fast. And in that fight against Gage, even in that last one, man, it seemed like on late notice, it seemed like the Rafael Fiziev that we remember from a few years ago is back. It was just a tough hand, to fly from opposite end of the world on short notice, but I still thought he handled himself okay. I like Fiziev in this one. I think Bahamundes still has to reach that level, and he'll prove me wrong on Saturday. Nolan, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to lean towards Fiziev. I think it's a great learning experience for Bahamundes, big opportunity. But I think Fiziev, you can't read that guy in terms of wins and losses, like what he brings to the cage. He's a tough out.
And we'll finish up with this, guys. Another matchup to highlight from this event out in Baku, Azerbaijan. Back to Nolan King. Who do you want to put a spotlight on?
Yeah, I want to put a spotlight on Tafiq Musayev, man. That's a cool signing by the UFC. I think they've been making a lot of those recently. Ryzen tournament winner, former Bellator contender. From Azerbaijan, so checks a lot of boxes, and he's fighting Oralbai, who brings it, who's a lot of fun to watch. So I love that fight. Super, super high level fight on the undercard there.
Who do you like in it to win?
I'm going to lean with Musayev. I think he gets it done. He just has more high level experience, and I don't know. It's a tough style fight, but I'm going to lean with him.
How about you guys?
Going Sadikov and Mota. I think their styles will blend nicely in this fight. I think it'll be a fun fight. Early leave those Sadikov.
All right, Mike Bond, who do you like?
If we finally get it, the Curtis Blades Kuniev fight, they've been scheduled. I think this is their 3rd or 4th time. So if we see it happen, great. Anytime we see heavyweights booked to fight at all, especially ranked ones, it's like a special occurrence because there's so few of these fights of late. So let's see what Curtis Blades can do coming back from that Tom Aspinall fight. Not often you see a guy coming from a title shot to fighting a newcomer. So odd situation here, but anything you can give me at heavyweight, I'm all for.
I like Tagir Ulanbekov. I'm a fan of his. He's kind of been quiet, like Joshua Van, who I think is like 7-1 in that UFC flyweight division. I think this guy's 5-1, riding a 3-fight win streak. So I like his fight coming up here. That's the one I want to shed a spotlight on. And folks, we're out of time on this week's Spinning Back Clique. You can join us every Monday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. It's live, and if you miss any of it, right away, it's up on YouTube here. Of course, you can always catch us on Facebook. You'll see sometimes the comments coming through from Facebook. So if that's YouTube gets blocked, you can always come through Facebook and vice versa. And don't forget, we also have another video franchise called Overreaction Time, and that's Tuesdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Danny Segura, who's a frequent panelist here on this show, he'll be a guest of Simon Simonos tomorrow on Overreaction Time. And don't forget, the fights are early on Saturday for the UFC because they are out in Baku, Azerbaijan. That's the fight card we just discussed with Jamal Hill and Khalil Roundtree at the top. PFL, they get down on Friday a little bit earlier than last week's Thursday start time for the PFL. They make it so confusing. We apologize for that. Late, happy Father's Day to all of you all out there. And of course, we have Juneteenth coming up, a new national holiday that's come up here in the United States the last few years. So I wish you well on that day. And we're out of here for now. Go out and be a champion. Talk to you soon.